Good morning and good day to those who are joining us in Kiev, in Washington, D.C. We're so happy to have you with us. My name is Melinda Herring, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center. We have a really fantastic panel for you. This panel was inspired by GlobeSec. Pavel Sheremet and I were in Bratislava, and we were hearing directly from Ukrainian local officials. And I said, golly, we need to get these people in front of our crowd in Washington. So that's what we've done. This event is called Leading from the Front, How Ukraine's Local Officials Resist Russia. We are joined by Governor Vitaly Kim. He is the governor of Mykolaiv Oblast. If you haven't read the Wall Street Journal, a piece on him, I strongly encourage you to do so. He's known for being a great communicator, and I'm so happy to have him here with us. Welcome. We are joined by Mayor Ivan Fedorov. He's the mayor of Melitopol, and there's a fantastic piece in the New Yorker about him as well. And he is governing in a Russian-occupied city. Welcome, Ivan. I'm joined by Alexander Lomanko. He's the secretary of Chernihiv City Council, and that's in northern Ukraine, and it was a very heavily destroyed city, and he's going to tell us more about that. I have Pavlo Sheremet, a distinguished fellow at GlobeSec and a former Minister of Economic Development and Trade of Ukraine. Always learn a ton from him. So happy to have Pavlo. And finally, Victoria Boysitskaya, a former member of the Ukrainian Parliament and a member of the International Center for Ukrainian Victory, will be joining us as soon as her connection works. So gentlemen, let's jump in. We have an hour, and what we do is we have a conversation. I'm going to ask you some questions to get you started, and our audience will also want to join in. So as you are listening to the conversation, feel free to drop questions into the Q&A, and I will be glad to pose it to the right person. So, Governor Kim, let's start with you. Help us understand what's going on. So many in the West have struggled to explain what Putin is doing in Ukraine. Is it right to say that he wants to make Ukraine unlivable, ungovernable by attacking infrastructure, or does he have a different plan?
You know, in my opinion, he is doing what you just said to achieve his goals. And his goal is to win the next election, and to raise his own rating. Because I think that if Ukrainian, or when Ukrainian will live good, will earn money, will build a democracy society, will fight the corruption, everybody in Russia will say, okay, look, Ukrainians make revolution and they're doing well, they live a good life. So let us do it in Russia. So Putin cannot afford this, because he needs us Ukrainians to live worse than Russia. So that's why he kills our economy, kills our people, and doing all he can to make us suffer and make our economics to fall.
Got it. So tell us a little bit more about Mykolaiv. I know that you guys had missiles hit in your oblast over the weekend. Is it true that you only have technical water, and that's water for toilets and dishes? And what kind of equipment do you need to fix your infrastructure problems, Governor?
Yes, we have for now only technical water in our pipes, because Russians blow the pipe from the Dnieper River that we was previously. And for now we have problems with this, because we have not enough water from our underground. Yes, the debit is not good. So the only way is to take the water from our rivers, Yuzhny Bug and Ingul, and it contains more salt, 7 times more salt in the water that it is needed. So the only way is reverse osmosis systems that could clean the water to the stage we can drink it. And that's why this is a problem. We didn't solve it yet, and working on it with engineers.
Gotcha. So you get the mayor, you're the governor of this large oblast, but your mayor of Mykolaiv recently told Radio Svoboda that everyone who wants to survive should leave. It's not clear when all this will be over. What's your view on that as the governor? Do you want people to stay or go?
You know, if the people have opportunity to leave the city and to have a job in another way, it will be more safely for them. Because for now, if you do not have a job, you don't need to stay in Mykolaiv, because it's too dangerous. We have they bomb us and shoot us every day, and we have wounded people every day, dozens of them. So if there is a possibility, you should leave. This is my opinion. But if you want to help your Ukrainian army, or you have a job, you need to come and work for our victory.
Got it. And Governor, how are you communicating with people? What platforms do you use, and what are the messages that really resonate with people now?
You know, in the first days of war, the only way to communicate was the Telegram channel. But for now, we have built a system for communication with military forces, with news, with journalists, and with our official sites. So we cooperating for now and give only information that needed for people. And we do not give information about war situation and military situation in the front line, because it can be used not only by our people and by the Russian occupants. So for now, we have a system that works.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to bring Mayor Ivan Fedorov into the conversation. So you have a very weird job. You are the mayor of a city. You do not live in the city, and it's controlled by Russia. How do you govern as a mayor when you're not there and it's run by an occupying force?
It's a really new experience. It's a really new goals. Yes, because 1 year and 4 months ago, when we was elected, we didn't wait that we will have such experience. Today, we can say that we have 3 different Melitopols. First Melitopol and citizens, because the city is a citizens, of course. And first Melitopol, it's which citizens which stay now in Melitopol and have no possibility to leave Melitopol. Second Melitopols, it's our citizens which leave Melitopol but stay in Ukraine. And third category, it's our citizens which now stay on the border of Ukraine in European Union and other countries all over the world. And of course, I as a mayor and my team must to give some assist to all of categories. Of course, first of all, harder situation in our citizens which stay now in Melitopol, because of course, first of all, they now are situated in information blockade, because Russians cut all our TVs, all our radio station, internet, mobile phones, and all, and they make media blockade, information blockade, and of course it's very hard to give a truth information. And of course our citizens which stay now in Melitopol don't trust that Ukraine, many of them don't trust that Ukraine come back. Many of them think that Ukraine don't want to liberate Melitopol. Of course, it's not true. And one of our important and very important job to give a truth information, to have some channels of communication to give truth information. Of course, second task for them, it's try to deliver humanitarian aid, pharmacy, other important things to Melitopol to help our citizens which stay now in Melitopol. Second category is our citizens which stay in Ukraine. We try to, first of all, in Zaporizhia, because most part our citizens which leave Melitopol now stay in Zaporizhia. We try to help with job, we try to help with humanitarian aid, we try to help with some physical consultations and support. And with this category, we try to work and try to give them support as it possible. For example, with education documents, with education on schools, with help with clinics, pharmacy, and other things. And of course, a third category, our citizens which now stay on the border of Ukraine in the European Union and other countries. Of course, for this category, we give less support and only information, some information about our city, some information about our citizens and other things.
Thanks, Ivan. That's really helpful. Talk to me a little bit more about humanitarian aid. Your city is Russian occupied. Can aid from Ukraine come into the city? Will the Russians allow it?
Of course not, because we need to look short history. When 24th of February, Putin with his troops come to our cities, he said all over the world, and when he came to our city, he will be not only Melitopol, but all cities, South Ukraine, East Ukraine. He said all over the world that he will have a greatest support from our citizens, from our representative and other. But there is no support for Putin, for Russia. There is no support. And he had opposite reactions when our citizens go to make a huge protest, and had a huge actions. And now Putin start to make a really genocide from our genocide in our cities in Ukraine also, because all patriots of Ukraine, Putin thinks that it is terrorists. That's why he make really genocide. And we can't deliver humanitarian aid, legally humanitarian aid, and we can't deliver any pharmacy legally, any evacuation legally. That's why only with help of our volunteers, every day we make delivery of all pharmacy to our hospitals, because Russians don't deliver any pharmacy. We deliver food and some clothes to which categories of citizens who can't go out from homes, because Russians do it only for camera, only for TV, only for Russian propaganda, but not do it realistic. That's why if you ask question, is it possible to make legally humanitarian delivery? Not. But only with support of our volunteers, which do it every day.
Got it. Okay, so by the book, no, but you can get humanitarian aid with your volunteers.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Super. Okay. Do you view your job right now as the mayor of a Russian-occupied city to sort of keep hope alive and keep reminding people that it will change? Is that your biggest role right now?
Really, a situation in city is a very difficult and in dangerous situation, because every day, step by step, first of all, 3 weeks ago, they start to take documents for Russian passports. First of all, now they try to use our territory as one of the Putin use occupied territories of South Ukraine to make humanitarian crisis all over Ukraine and all over the world. Do you understand it? That's why now our citizens in very hard situation. And of course, every day Russians make new steps to make it more harder situation. Passports, now they make new pseudo government institutions as tax inspections, as bank system and other institutions. And now they ask our businessmen, our factories to make registration in new pseudo government organization. And of course, our citizens can't understand what to do. And of course, we, all of us, wait only one thing: when our military institutions, when our soldiers will liberate our city.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ivan. I'm so glad you could be here. Sasha, tell us about Chernihiv. So I know that there's been extensive damage in your city. And I think you told me it was the third hardest hit city, but residents are starting to return. What are the obstacles to bringing more people back?
Truly, Melinda, the city suffered enormous damage and destruction. The enemy targeted our civil infrastructure for 38 days, which they was close to the city. According to the research of the Kyiv School of Economics, Chernihiv is the third place in Ukraine in the size of destruction, unfortunately. And before the February 24th, there were 290,000 people living in the city. During the most difficult period on the end March, there were less than 90,000. Now the population is about 190,000 people, so more than 100,000 people have returned to the city, but Another 100,000 still have not. The main reason for this is lack of safety. You have heard the news at the weekend. Russian and Belarusian launch dozens and dozens launch missiles to our territory, also Chernigiv region, part of them. And we asked our partners, NATO, they supply us which means of air defense and planes, because without safety, people will not come back to the city. The second issue is the infrastructure. People need to be sure that in winter there will be hot water and heating in their homes. The city council do everything to solve this problem, but it's a lot of damages in our city and a big job for prepare this. The third issue for our people is renewal for education process. 80% of our school and kindergarten have suffered different level of damage and destruction. If children start school year on the 1st of September in other countries and other cities, they are less likely, their parents and their family, less likely to return. So without waiting for help, we allocated around $1 million from the city budget for current repair in order to open the maximum numbers of school and kindergarten in September. The next problem is accommodation. Around 10,000 apartments, 2,000 private houses have been destroyed in the city during the bomb. In order for people to return, they have known where they are going to live. Now we are in the process of damage assessment. Then after which we expect our government state to offer a mechanism to solving this problem. And again, without waiting local government, without waiting the decision of the central government, we have allocated 100 million hryvnia from our city budget for the repair and accommodation. It's not enough, of course, but it is a start. And another equality important issue is the jobs. Approximately 60% our company businesses suffered damage during the attacks. Without the renovation business and support from government, city doesn't have a future, because it's job, it's taxes to budget and other issue. So we need help, and we address our government and our parliament to consider the issue, which could be very important for all region pre-border with Russia, or all region who suffered from attack. State will make decision. I should to be the insuring company, insuring local business against possible destruction risk due to military action, because no company will get it, and only government could give this opportunity. Then businesses will make decision to renew their work in Chernigiv sooner. I communicate every day with local entrepreneurs. They want to work here, but of course they afraid maybe possibility second part to destroy in our city and other problem.
Thank you, Sasha. That's a really helpful overview. Governor Kim, could you also give us an overview of what your oblast looks like? Do you guys have heat, water? How damaged are the schools? And what's the job situation like?
Well, we have about 6,000 damaged or ruined objects in the region, about 6,000, about 200 schools. We have heat, we have electricity, but in the region, in the front line, war line, obviously we have no infrastructure that left at all. It is fully destroyed, about, I don't know, 10 kilometers line in the war line. And the second part of the question, I forgot.
Yeah, just a picture of it. What so schools, water, heat, and then jobs. What about jobs?
You know, we have blocked seaports in our region. We have 6 seaports, and they were exporting about 80% of our currency, about our currency income. And for now, almost more than 50% of enterprises and economics are stopped by the war. 12 of the biggest agricultural enterprises do not work. Some of enterprises' big plans are just paying the payment to people and don't work. We have a great problem with jobs for now, and only small business like trading, markets, pharmacy, and critical infrastructure, all we need for living just works. And it's not profitable for now. We're just surviving, not earning money.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's really helpful. Victoria, I'm so glad you've joined us. I see you, and I'm so glad you could give us a little bit of context. I know you, and I want to bring Pavlo in as well. Victoria, you just came to Washington, and you were here with Sasha, and you've been looking at the damage in Chernihiv and thinking about the bigger picture. You've heard Ivan from Mytolopol, Vitaly from Nikolaev, and Sasha from Chernihiv. How is Ukraine going to survive the winter? And is Ukraine ready for these challenges?
Melinda, thank you for all of your questions. Indeed, we had a trip last week with Sasha, and the purpose of the trip was to update politicians in regards to the challenges that local communities are facing, given the dire circumstances that we have due to the war in Ukraine. So the objective of our trip was to let everyone know that although we're getting quite substantial support at the governmental level, financial support in terms of macro-financial assistance, but we do need special lines of help, of assistance, financial aid to be directed to those cities, to those municipalities, to those regions that are being heavily affected, damaged by the shellings and bombings from Russia. And basically, we have three groups of such communities. We have those where we fully return control, like Chernihiv, and for life to come back there, as Alexander mentioned, we do need to make sure that, for example, the heat supply, electricity supply, water supply is fully restored. The municipalities do not have much of the funds that they need. They get partial funding from the state budget, but they do need to have more robust approach to financing full reconstruction or final reconstruction of such assets. That's the first thing. Second thing, we of course have those areas that were damaged.
Victoria, we're having some trouble with your connection.
Which are controlled by Russians. We can do much there, but there are also those cities and those areas where we do.
Victoria, I'm going to ask you. Finish your thought, please.
Yes, so we have the biggest challenge that is coming for Ukraine is to survive this winter, because we expect that Russians will target the assets of critical infrastructure, not just in those areas where active war activities, where zones are, but also major cities like Kiev, like the life of people who live there. Other people will have to leave their cities, will have to go somewhere else to be able to survive the winter. No one in the, you can imagine, in the modern world can survive the winter in a cold apartment without water or up and running with shortage of electricity, water, heat, etc. So we do need like immediate support tools to be able to repair really fast the assets that are either being already damaged or that are going to be damaged during the months to come.
Super. Thank you, Victoria. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. I'm going to leave it at there with you. I really appreciate you giving us some time today. Pavlo, jump in here and please help us. So the West is starting to talk about rebuilding in Ukraine and reconstruction. What advice would you offer given this very uncertain situation that the mayors and governors have outlined? Does it make sense to start working on this question, or does it make sense to focus on security now? What do you think?
Thank you, Melinda, and it's a pleasure to join this discussion. Governor Kim, Mayor Fedorov, and the Secretary Lomako, Victoria. Also, thank you for all your work on the front lines. I guess, well, it's, by the way, it's both the West and Ukraine that need to answer three questions before the real rebuilding starts. The first question is what needs to be rebuilt? Because not everything needs to be rebuilt, and definitely not everything needs to be rebuilt as it was, because it was not everything was really quite effective, or efficient, like, for example, energy efficient. So it's basically using this crisis to not only rebuild but renew, modernize the infrastructure. And it needs to be decided what specifically. The question number two is how. And you just mentioned the security guarantees. We don't have a good answer, and I don't think we have a good discussion. It's difficult to be focused on that while the real military challenge is when the real war is going on. But for the future, for any kind of substantial rebuilding, the security guarantees need to be developed and given. And we don't have a good answer what kind of those security guarantees will be given if Ukraine is not, and it seems like Ukraine will not be the member of the NATO in the foreseeable future. So the Article 5 will not be acting in Ukraine. And then question number three is who is going to coordinate that? Because we have, it's nice to have all the partners jumping in and willing to contribute, the United States, the multinational financial institutions, European Union, other actors. But there is a threat and danger of duplicating the efforts. So there needs to be a good coordination center. And it's a very good discussion at the moment. Does Ukraine have enough managerial and organizational capacity to handle such a coordination of such a massive support? So probably some kind of international, multinational agency is needed for that. Trust is also an issue. At the moment, the trust to Ukraine is enormous, so that's so far so good. But for the future, especially if private investors jump in or join in, the reputable multinational institution is most probably needed. So what, how, and who are the questions that need to be thought over now?
Super. When we talked last month, we were talking about a Marshall Plan. Some people have called it the Zielinski Plan, a big program to rebuild. But you said that just an assistance program, even with conditions, is not enough. And you said it needs a plan for economic freedom. What does that mean specifically? And does Ukraine's new EU candidate status make economic reform a higher priority?
Yes, it does. I'm just starting with the latter part of your question. Yes, it does, and it's it's an additional obligation because now, of course, the country is excited about this status. We understand that it's given on trust, and this trust needs to be deployed and fulfilled. So, how do we do this? We do this through reforms. We do this through fighting corruption. We do this through, as you mentioned, ensuring economic freedom. Any kind of the new Marshall Plan or any kind of a huge economic assistance that is discussed at the moment will produce the best results with a dynamic and vital private sector. And by the way, it's also the private sector that needs to attract private resources, private investment into the country, because at the moment we are talking mostly about government resources. The reality of economic life is that government resources is actually a minority. It's a minor part. The major part is the private investment that are coming in, attracted by other private investors. And for that, Ukraine needs a dynamic economic ecosystem environment, which is not fully there in place. And that's something that needs to be done, as you asked and I already mentioned. The candidate status and the future path to the European Union is a good way to accompany this transition.
Super. So you hinted before, and I want you to answer your own question. You asked a question: does Ukraine have enough capacity, enough managerial capacity for a big reconstruction project? We had a discussion that was really interesting, and not many of us know this. Can you say more? So we all know Zelensky's name, right? But we don't know. Fewer of us know Ivan's name and Vitaly's name. Can you say more about that managerial capacity? And you said specifically you saw it really flourish in the pre-war period under COVID. Could you say more about that for us, Pavlo?
Look, I worked in the government in 2014, so it was 8 years ago. Of course, many things have changed and the capacity has increased for sure. But I realized how limited capacity was at that time. We were given a $500 million grant by the World Bank, and we needed 3 months to get all the signatures, to basically just to accept it, not even to deploy it, but to accept it. 3 months of pushing the papers within the government. Hopefully, that era is over. Because here we're talking about not hundreds of millions. We need to talk about hundreds of billions. So all of that needs to be properly planned. All of that needs to be properly procured. All of that needs to be properly implemented. All of that needs to be properly monitored. So that Ukraine can keep attracting further resources. So how do we increase the managerial and organizational capacity? As I already mentioned, adding and inviting foreign partners, that's one of the way. But another way, and especially given the fact that the governor, the mayor, and the secretary are here, may I suggest that a lot of that work needs to be delegated to the oblasts, regions, and cities. Because through the decentralization efforts, you can see through this panel, it's a wonderful panel, by the way. I'm so proud of our the local government officials. They are absolutely capable. They are more than capable. They are heroes, actually. And their teams are excellent too, because, the governor or the mayor cannot do much without the team. So basically, increasing the national capacity with the local capacity, adding a little bit of a good competition in a good way, between the oblasts and the cities, would be the way to increase this organizational and managerial capacity of Ukraine overall. So basically, decentralization is also the way to proceed. I know that the Kyiv government, whatever government, including this government, has this centralization instincts. That's the nature. But I'm appealing to them. Please delegate as much as you can to able local government officials and to their teams, because through this we can absorb much more aid and investment than if we just will go through the capital, through Kyiv.
Yeah, that's a great point. I have one last question, then I want to go back to our officials. What do you do? So there's going to be, when the war is finally over and the security situation improves, there's going to be a massive attempt to bring as much aid to Ukraine as possible on the central level. But then Vitaly's office, Ivan's office, Sasha's office, they're all going to be negotiating one-on-one. How do you make sense of that? Is it just going to be a giant mess? Do you think that kind of one-on-one negotiation should be encouraged, Pavlo? You just hinted that you think that there is a centralizing drive, but is that the right way to do reconstruction?
I'm not sure when you say one-on-one, you mean one-on-one with Kyiv or one-on-one with other?
Yes. So you know, Ivan City, Mitilopol may strike a deal with Akron, Ohio, right? Like these guys.
I'm fully for that. Absolutely fully for that. And actually, I encourage all Ukrainian municipalities to develop as many partnerships, especially now that there is so much sympathy and still attention, despite the starting fatigue. So, by the way, the attention window might be, if not fully closing, might be a bit closing. So let's use this moment as much as we can to develop as many horizontal connections as we can. I can see, like for example, the Chernivtsi city. Which is not represented here, but I see that during the wartime, they developed 2 or 3 additional twin city arrangements with for example, Düsseldorf in Germany and other cities, and they're already getting help. They're already getting aid. So of course, it's much easier to do for the cities that are far away from the front line. Much more difficult to do, especially for Melitopol, which is occupied at the moment. But those cities that can do this, please do this and apply this help as much as possible.
Super. Yeah, I think, Pavlo, one thing we can do here practically is get the governor and the mayor and the secretary in front of World Affairs Councils across America and make those connections now. I think that's an absolutely important point. And guys, I'm very happy to do that. So I'd like to go back to Sasha for a minute. Is Victoria right? She says that the Russians are going to target infrastructure and not just in the hard hit places that we've been seeing, but also in Kyiv, in Zhytomyr, in bigger cities. Do you agree with that assessment? Should we be expecting a very hard winter, Sasha?
I am agree and more. I saw this during the 38 days when Chernihiv was under fire, because it's absolutely clear the main target of our enemy was civil and critical infrastructure. Because in the March, most periods this month, the city Chernihiv stay without electricity, without water supply, without work of sewage system, and almost without mobile and internet connection. It results absolutely targeted attack from enemy, and they absolutely clear know their target and their goal, because it was their goal.
Super. Thank you. We have some great questions, guys. So I'm gonna switch over to our questions and bring in our audience. So first question is from Trudy Rubin, a friend of ours in Philadelphia. She writes for one of the big newspapers there. And if she calls you, take her call, because more Americans will read about your cities. So Trudy says, number 1, should there be an international program to link Ukrainian cities to US EU cities, as Pavlo suggested? And number 2, can the economy be redeveloped if the Black Sea blockade is not broken? Hold on a second. So large-scale exports can restart. So Vitaly, Governor Kim, do you want to take the second part of the question about the economy?
Yes, okay. No, there is no way if the blockade of seaports for exporting, because we have about 12 places in the world export. So we just cannot use if we will not use our seaports, we cannot change logistic by railway station and cargo trucks. It's too big. We have about 30 million tons per year just only for wheat. So it's not possible to export all of our harvest if we will have blocked seaports.
Okay, super. Thank you so much. Pavlo, tell me, do you know anything about linking Ukrainian cities to US EU cities? Is there something already in the works on that?
I do not know of any centralized program, so it might be actually an opportunity. We have for example, in Ukraine, we have association of cities. Yeah. I think there is association of mayors or local governments in the states and probably in the EU. So maybe these associations can help.
Okay.
I can answer this question. Please. Also. We have a central program of our president, and we have already we're calculating calculating damages. We
Post
communicate
recovery.
with first recovery, yes, and we communicate with different countries. For example, Dania is applied to help Nikolaev region, Nikolaev Oblast, and another region helps another country. So we have central program by President Zelensky. First recovery, yes.
Okay, super.
Melinda, I want to add a few
Please.
words about sister city, Ukrainian and United States. I don't know a lot of example, this partnership between Ukrainian city and USA city, but I knew a lot of examples partnership with Russian city. For example, Philadelphia, Nizhny Novgorod, it dozens and dozens of examples, and Belarusian city. And it's good opportunity to American mayor, American city to open this relationship with Ukrainian city and close with Russian and Belarusian city. I think it's clear right now, absolutely right decision.
That's a great point, Sasha. Thanks for jumping in. Okay, question from our friend Paul Nyland, who's in Kiev. Great to have you with us, Paul. Ivan and Vitaly, this is for you. We know that Russia sits on the large population centers, but what does the occupation in the rest of the regions look like? I mean, between the cities, are the Russians mainly ignoring smaller towns? What kind of security have they tried to set up on the territories they're trying to steal? Once the Ukrainian military comes to liberate them, are they faced with just the occupying army and lookouts, or have they tried putting up any physical defenses like fences? Ivan, do you want to go first? Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Of course, Vitaly will be first.
Okay.
No, Russians take everything they can. They're not ignoring small villages. They occupy everything, and we do not have routes through the occupied territories because we try to provide humanitarian goods, medicine for the occupied territory, and we have no open routes. We have a straight front line, a war line. We cannot. There are no free from Russians small villages on occupied territory.
Got it. Thank you. Ivan?
We must understand that Russia it's a very big country and with many secret services. And for example, in Melitopol can work a half part of secret services, for example, FSB of interrogation department, and in villages can work some not secret but special services from DNR, LNR, or police system, or National Guard of Russian Federation system, and other. That's why in all villages, small or large village, in all cities, small or large city, Russians want to do their bad deeds. And of course, first of all, they start to catch from our cities some goods, from our cities and villages, some goods to take something from warehouses, to take, of course, harvest from our farms and other, to bring any cars, special or agricultural equipment, and it first task that they do in our cities and villages. And of course, if the village is small, it don't mean that Russians didn't come or don't come to these villages. And of course, to all villages and cities, they bring their unlegal representatives, and put into the chair and said, today it's in your head. That's why in all territories.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, I've got some great questions for you guys. This is what we call the Blitz round. So if you want to, you can unmute yourself and just answer this, give me a good short answer. First question, I love this question. Is there anything that the international media got wrong in their coverage of the war? Any myths that you wish to debunk? Pavlo? Anything jump out at you that was completely wrong?
Well, look, I mean, the first weeks, the most gloomy predictions that I have read was, and I have to say it's American, maybe I read more of American media than let's say French, because I don't read French. But I would say the world media got completely wrong. But now at the moment, I think it's corrected. So now it's much more optimistic. I would say much more balanced analysis.
Okay, great. Governor Kim, anything that you think that the media got really wrong?
Tell the truth, I have no time to read the international news, so I do not know exactly. But all that I heard, it's totally true. Not totally, but it's, I don't know, 90% true.
Okay, good. So we're doing a good job. Yvonne, you have anything on that?
No, I agree. I agree with you, and of course, the same situation.
Sasha, I know you want more reporters to come to Chernihiv, but anything else you've seen in the press that you think they got wrong?
Oh, no, thank you. I have something to add to my colleagues.
Okay, so Sasha, this one's going to go to you first. As the war goes on, how does Ukraine intend to keep this on the news agenda? We're already seeing the Ukraine war is no longer on the front pages of international newspapers. Guys, do you have any ideas on this? Let's go to Sasha first, then I'll do it in reverse order. Go ahead, Sasha.
I think this is important, and we are very thankful for great support, and European and USA politicians and the media, our country. Unfortunately, when the interest to Ukrainian become a little bit less, some scandal or terrible deals Russian troops like Bucha or Mariupol or other again came back to attention to this war and these barbarian deals, of course. Unfortunately, after 4 months, after this 100 days, our war, only something extraordinary could keep their mind. I very believe and I very hope the next part will become our victory in the battlefield, and about success Ukrainian army. International media will press more often.
Got it. You guys, any other ones want to talk about Ukraine fatigue, how to fight it? Go ahead, Governor.
I hope that all international society will use logic and analytics, and won't be needed any bloody shows anymore to help Ukraine, because we cannot put the level of this interest higher, because this is very bloody things. We need help for now to free our people and free our territories, because every day we have victims. And this is not a show. We have a war in here, and we have people that dying. So please do not use it like a show. Use logic and analytics. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I hope that you'll tell more of those stories directly to people. I think that's helpful. Pavlo.
Yeah, I would add one more word to governor's appeal to logic and analytics. I would also add compassion, because I guess that's what he meant too. Because again, we are losing people. He was right. Unfortunately, we are losing people every day, lots of people, and it's logic, analytics, and compassion. Thank you.
Super. Yvonne, any ideas on how to fight fatigue?
Yes, of course, it's very important for us, and of course, it's very important for representatives all over the world, because now we see that after 4 months of war, information about Ukraine and situation and war in Ukraine, it's not on the top of the list of news and information and media all over the world. That's why it's very important to, first of all, give a truth information, and of course, talk about it every day, every hour, every meeting, because as our colleague said, every minute somebody died because Russians make a war in Ukraine. That's why it's very important to tell about it one more and one more, again and again.
Yvonne, a question from Marketa. She says, how do you keep in touch with your population in the occupied territories?
Many important things, many important channels. First of all, of course, we have half part of our team now inside in Melitopol. Of course, less people know about it, but we have. And of course, we communicate with them by Telegram message, by WhatsApp message, with the help of VPN. It works now in Melitopol. Of course, we give information to our citizens that they can use social medias, but only with use of VPN. VPN, and they use by with support of VPN. They use social medias, and every day we have communication with them. And of course, nowadays we have a special center in Zaporizhia. Our last 10 days visit this center more than 2,000 of citizens, and of course we ask all of these 2,000 of citizens communicate with relatives, with friends inside Melitopol and give a truth information.
Ivan, if you're willing to talk about this, I know you were kidnapped. How long were you incarcerated, and how did you get out?
6 days I was in a prison, and I get out by negotiations that decided President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, and I was exchanged for 9 Russian soldiers.
Wow. Okay, so President Zelensky values you, not 9 for 1. That's a lot. Were you tortured?
I'm not tortured by physical, but of course it was very hard physical, and because I of course don't know when it will stop it and why I was kidnapped. And in next cameras they make tortures from our Melitopol citizens, which was kidnapped on in the street, and Russians think that it's soldiers of Ukraine. That's why main problem I can't understand when it will be finished.
What did the Russian, so when you were in jail for 6 days, what did they want to know? What kind of information were they trying to get out of you?
First of all, they want to take support from me. They want, for example, I go to Central Square and say, "Dear my citizens, let's go to Russia."
Okay.
And it's the main that what they want. When they understood that it's impossible, I don't want to make this meeting. And of course, they try to know all about situation in Melitopol, in the Zaporizhia region, and about another mayors, about other representatives, about economic situation, about political situation, and other things.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Okay, Governor Kim, this is a great question. Another unusual one. How does Ukraine view the role of China in this conflict? Do you have any insight into that?
I think this is a question for President Zelensky. So you should ask him, because international communication is not my administration, not my part. So I do not know.
Okay, super, fair enough. Okay, another question for you guys. Let's see. Does anyone want to go ahead?
Let me, because that's an important question. May I jump in quickly
Please.
on China, because it needs to be addressed.
Please.
Unfortunately, we understand that China supports Russia. Not militarily, thanks God, but the treaty that they have signed about friendship with no limits just days before the invasion maybe kind of induced Putin into the invasion. So Ukraine and Ukrainians hope that China understands that the Chinese success, of course, is due to hard work of Chinese people. And the liberty that they were given, after the cultural revolution, especially the economic freedom ones. But it's also the rule-based order in the world. It's a free trade that they have used extensively to produce an enormous prosperity for the world. I hope we hope that they understand that Russia actually endangers that rules-based order. So this war is very dangerous for the world in terms that basically the reason for Chinese success and potentially for the success of other countries in the world may be endangered. So that's why we appeal to Chinese, to reconsider their position and to have and to give us support, if at least to the rule-based order in the world. Yeah.
Super. Thank you. Okay. Last question for each of you guys. I'm going to ask specific questions and you have just a short response. Governor Kim, if you're talking to Washington is listening to you. What's the most important thing we can do for your oblast? Is it opening the ports in the Black Sea, or is it something else?
the primary target for all of Ukrainians is the end of the war, or stopping our people, dying our peoples. And to stop this war, from my opinion, it's only the way of war. So we need heavy ammo and heavy weapons to deoccupy our territory and the Kherson region. And when we will pull them back, it will be a big range to the territory of our city, and they will cannot reach from the artillery. This is the main problem for us, to stop civilians, people dying. The second way is obviously is help for deoccupying seaports, but there is no guarantee that it will be open seaports, but they will shoot by artillery to our city, and it won't work anyway. We need to stop. We need to Russian to stop shooting our city.
Got it. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Mayor Ivan, you talked a little bit about the difficulty of getting humanitarian aid into your city. Raquel Rosenberg is asking about the role of UN and international organizations. Would it be helpful if those organizations were more forceful in getting humanitarian aid to cities like yours?
Yes, of course, it can be helpful if international humanitarian organization will deliver his humanitarian aid, and what's important to control delivering of this humanitarian aid, to control citizen. But it is, but they didn't do it yet. But if it's possible, of course, it will be. It will be important. It will be good if we can do it.
Thank you so much. Sasha, what's the top need from your city in Chernihiv?
I want to give a message in the end of our discussion. You speaking with Pavlo about the process of renovation Ukrainian, and I agree with him about the role of local government and decentralization, but I want to give other message. I am sure the investment in the rebuilding of Ukraine should start immediately. Of course, some global project, big investment and rebuilding of the city possible only after Ukrainian victory. We understand this. But some works on repairing school and critical infrastructure should start as soon as possible. Why? Because we should give our people, people from Chernihiv, for example, live right now in 30 countries and 100 cities all around the world. We should give them message. There is future here. The condition of life will be created, and people could come back to home as soon as it will be more or less safe. It will show people that world believes of our victory and supports us not only with weapons and current financial means, but it's already starting to invest in the future. It's very important message, and I don't know, international organization, maybe in the Lend-Lease it could be some money for emergency. I don't speak about global innovation, but emergency, because without this, every month, every day, more and more people will make decision not come back to Ukraine and not come back to our city, and this very difficult for us, for local authorities, and for all Ukrainians.
Thank you so much. Ukraine has a future, and we need to keep saying that. That's exactly right. Pavlo, you get the last word. Please take it away.
I want to second Secretary Lomako, absolutely. The critical infrastructure, he mentioned the schools. I would mention also hospitals, especially the mobile hospitals that can be used both in the front line and the damaged cities. That's what we need desperately, and we'll be grateful for that assistance. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to echo what Pavel said. Thank you for your leadership. You guys are on the front lines. I know you're working constantly and you're often away from your families. Bless you. We care and we want to have you here again. Anything we can do, just say the word. Thank you, Governor Kim. Thank you, Mayor Ivan Fedorov. Thank you, Sasha Lomanko from Chernihiv. And thank you so much, Pavel. It was a pleasure and an honor to spend an hour with you. God bless Ukraine, and we will check back with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Так, теперь, если ты хотел поснять экран, можно подойти поснять сзади. Секундочку.